Tere tulemast kuulama Eesti Noorsooteatri taskuhäälingu 7. saadet. Siin vestlevad erinevad teatritöötajad saatekülalistega loomingust, oma kutsumuse leidmisest ja selle hoidmisest ning mõtestavad elus olemise ilu. Avame ja analüüsime siin saates teemasid, mis haakuvad noorsooteatri igapäevase loominguga ning avavad laiemalt meie teatri loomingulisi tegevusi ning eesmärke. Noorsooteatri taskuhääling püüdleb selle poole, et pakkuda argipäevas inspiratsiooni, julgustust, analüüsi ja mõttekaaslust nii noortele kui ka täiskasvanud kuulajale. Tänases saates, mis on salvestatud Noorsooteatri proovisaalis 26. mail enne lavastuse Lahenduste ministeerium esietendust, vestlen selle aluseks oleva raamatusarja autori Sanne Rooseboomiga mina, lavastaja Taavi Tõnisson. Vestlus toimub inglise keeles. So, Sanne, hello.
Hi.
And welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
You have spent a few days in Estonia for now.
Yes.
What has your experience has been like so far?
Well, it has been a very amazing experience. I'd never been to Estonia, and Tallinn as a city is quite surprisingly beautiful. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew it was beautiful, but it's such a nice place to walk around. And then the weather has been really nice.
It has been
blue
quite
skies
hot.
in all my pictures. Yes, and I met a lot of very friendly people. And of course, this is one of the most amazing reasons to visit a place. You know, every time I walk outside, I see the Lahenduste ministerium flag at the theater. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that is exactly the reason that you are here. We're going to have a premiere tonight. You have not seen it yet.
I have not. I have seen pictures and that's it.
Can you describe your feelings before the premiere, before actually seeing what we have created?
I'm mainly very, I'm curious. I'm very curious. And it's the first time that I have seen the Ministry of Solutions performed, that someone created something else than text and pictures. So this for me is a new experience. I had one other book in the Netherlands that someone made into a small performance, but it was very small and they cut out loads. So this is the first time that I actually see actors perform a story that I came up with. So that's kind of magical. But then, of course, there's the funny handicap that I will not be able to understand a word they say. And I don't know how that is going to be.
I am, of course, extremely excited, but nervous at the same time, because for me it is as well like a first experience meeting the author of the novel that I have, used for the performance. And I hope that you will recognize the characters, you will recognize the story. But of course, as we will later discuss, literature and theater are in a way different mediums.
Yeah.
And we have been trying to figure out a way to turn one into another, to translate while preserving the essence of what you have created. So, your characters in your stories, they have a very vivid imagination and they are very playful and always striving for the justice and truth. What were you like as a child? Tell us a little bit of your background and childhood and growing up.
I was the oldest of 4 children growing up in a city, like 300,000 people in the middle of the Netherlands, so kind of a big city. Both of my parents are teachers. My father teaches English, taught English, and my mother as well until she became a mother, and then she had a disease, rheumatism, that got her into a wheelchair. So that was the home situation. It was very cozy and very full house. And I think I was I would like to think that I was like the characters, the way you just described them. I know I have always been excited about things, enthusiastic about things, and I'm very grateful that this is something that I still have. I can be very enthusiastic about things. I can also worry a lot about things, and this is also something I've had since childhood. And I think I caught this in 2 of the main characters. Like Nina has this kind of bursting energy, like, oh my, let's run into this adventure head first. And Alpha is more, well, her mind gets in the way, you know, and her imagination gets in the way. So she's kind of like, no, but if we ring that bell, maybe there's a kidnapper living there, or maybe, and I really am those two. And I mean, even just going to Tallinn, I will go, yes, I'm going to Tallinn. I'm looking so forward to it. But it means I can't work for 3 days and everything will go wrong and maybe my plane will crash. And so all these things, they're combined in me, and I have separated them into the girls.
So that answers the question, where did the inspiration for the two main characters come from?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Well, with Nina, we say in a way she has a tunnel vision. You know, once she has like this perspective, she wants to achieve something. She's super eager to get, you know, there and she even forgets everything else, you know, the surroundings. For example, there is a moment in the book where Nina sees the silver man, and she starts to follow one without actually understanding that it is a very dangerous situation. A child and a grown-up man, you know, it could turn out very badly. Yeah. But she has this strive in her. She wants to understand something, and she just goes for it. Yeah.
And I think I wasn't that kind of naive. I think as a writer, you also need this a little bit from your protagonist, because it gets the story going. So if Nina would have been slightly more realistic, that would have been okay, but the story would change. So I think I also needed her to run after things, and especially when it becomes the almost non-legal stuff, I made her much fiercer than I have ever been. Like in the third book, she becomes like a burglar. She goes into the headquarters of the Silverman at night, and I would never dream of doing something like that, and especially not when I was 10 or 11.
But then again, as a child, you don't know these boundaries yet.
No.
Yeah, and you are a little bit more trusting towards the world.
Yes.
Especially because you don't have these experiences. As a child, what were you like? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you go to adventures? I
think I was a little bit too responsible as a child, also because of my mother's illness and being the oldest. So I think I'd like to make my characters more carefree. But I did enjoy like field trips, and I had a room in the attic, and I had this whole, you know, vivid imagination of who lived there before me, and, you know, talking to ghosts, and, you know, I did create a lot of adventures. There were friends, and we played in the street, and somehow, you know, there were cars. It's not that I'm that old, but there weren't as many cars as there are now.
So, So in a way, our childhoods have been quite similar, because I come from a big family as well, from a family of 6 children. I was one of the youngest ones, and I also had a lot of friends around me, and we used to play outside a lot of times, you know, from early morning till late in the evening. And I can't remember my parents controlling us too much. But we had a lot of freedom. Of course, a lot of stuff happened, and there were even dangerous moments. But I do remember this feeling of excitement, and this feeling of freedom, and the playfulness, and imagining stuff, you know, playing our games, and they became so big. It was like an entire world for us, you know, and the surroundings were safe. You know, although nobody was controlling us, it was safe for us to be outside. Today, it's a little bit different. What is your experience as a grown-up? You know, what is your perspective to the world? You know, how do you see? Has it changed a lot since you were a child?
I find that very hard to answer, because I'm very aware that everyone that gets older thinks that the world has changed, and everyone loses the reflection that it's actually us that change. You know, every generation says that the people that come after them are softer or weaker or, I don't know, more superficial, like, you know, that the world has become more dangerous. So I don't know. I moved to a bigger city than the one where I grew up in. So my children, they don't play outside very much, but that could also be the location. But I think we are more aware of everything that could go wrong. And I think that's sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. And I think the internet has a very big role in this. We're very aware. And I mean, actually, as a writer, this scared me in my own book. Like it never happened, so I've lost this fear. But I was afraid in the beginning that children would ring a stranger's doorbell to help them because they had read this in the book. And then that stranger could very well not be a nice person. So I was afraid that children would copy this. But they never did.
You have to have this extremely responsible attitude towards what you have created, because
that's so scary.
I know, but in a way, it is a good thing. You know, as a writer, you can influence. You can give an example, and I am very sure that in some way this will affect. This has already affected, maybe not directly, you know, children going to strangers' doors, but it has got us thinking, and that already is a good.
That would be great, yeah. And I've had emails from schools, for example, that would do something. So they would do a Ministry of Solution kind of day. And that would mean that they would see if there was something they could do around the neighborhood. And then it's organized from the school. So that's safe. And that's nice. So that made me very happy to listen, to hear this. Yeah.
So with the little steps, you know, the world becomes a better place.
Well, yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. It's the only thing we can do. And I think that's also the basic of my inspiration for the book. In case you wanted to ask.
Yes, I was going to ask that, but that's a good answer.
It's, you know, the world is, well, in my opinion, an increasingly scary place. But again, I'm not sure if a grown-up in 1980 would not have said the same thing. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot going wrong in the world. And there's not a lot we can do. Not as individuals, not now, not all of a sudden. But you can smile at someone. You can hold the door open for someone. You can be profoundly interested when someone answers you. You can donate some money or write an anonymous review and give someone 5 stars for their little corner shop with coffee, you know. And these are things that you can do. And I think sometimes that's the only thing that you can do to make the world a little bit better. And of course, there should be people who work on the bigger stories and work on international cooperation and all these kind of things. But for an individual, it gets very hard to see what you can do. And I think that this is like a little trick.
It is. You cannot underestimate the power of a smile.
Yeah.
And this is something that I have been thinking about quite a lot while preparing this performance, because a smile is so much more than just a smile, you know. It can turn somebody's life upside down. It can give them a self-confidence that they desperately need, you know.
Yeah, it's a connection.
It is a connection, And in this very untrusting world, this connection has a lot of power. So it's not just nostalgia. It's not just, you know, sentiment. It's so much more. It's an actual gift. It is actually something that you can do.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about generations. What was your connection to, because of one of the characters, Mrs. Viss?
Yeah.
Miss Viss, yeah?
Yeah. They were married.
Very old lady in
89,
the books.
yeah.
And I remember from my own childhood that I used to have these neighbors in our where I lived, and that I used to visit. Also my grandparents, of course, but the old people that I used to visit, and I remember listening to their stories about war, about their childhood, and it was extremely interesting.
Yeah.
It was like an adventure for me as well.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about your connection with the older generation.
Yes, well, I'm still kind of surprised that I keep coming up with these really old characters, because I actually do this in all my books. My latest book, which was like a thin book that was a gift for people buying another book. It's a special thing in the Netherlands. But in that book, the 11-year-old main character actually cooperates with 400-year-old sorcerers. Wow. So it's getting worse. My obsession with incredibly old people is getting out of hand.
But in a way, you give them a voice.
Yes. No. And there are two things that I really like about this. One is I've always liked the idea almost of like touching history. I like old buildings. I like old streets. I like old objects, because it's a direct connection with all the people that went before us. And in a way, the older someone gets, the more they are like that. They can pass on the stories, like you just said, from a very different time. And in a story, that's a very good source. Like Madame Vis is she's the source of the story. Mm-hmm. She used to work for the old Ministry of Solutions, and it feels like a different time and a lifetime ago. But she is the constant in this whole story. Yeah. So I like that, and I like it. I think I would like to become like that when I grow old. Even more so in the second book, there's someone else, Tirza, who is even older. But both these old ladies, in their very own way, are still very lively. They're interested. They're not bitter. And I think it would be a gift to grow old like that. And they both have their challenges physically. One is blind, the other one can't walk anymore. But they're very alive. They're very much alive. And I think I would invite life to treat me that way. But the other thing is, it's a very practical thing for a writer. It's very nice to take out the middle generations. The 30, 40, 50, 60, 17-year-olds, I take them out of the equation because they are the people that normally solve stuff. Mm-hmm. They are the people that normally dictate life. They will say, you have to be home at that time, and here is your money, and I'll drive the car. And if you take them out, it becomes much more challenging as a child to find your solutions. So that's a kind of practical way. You kind of have to take out the parents and grandparents.
Yes. Also, I find it very moving how the children, the main characters, Nina, Alpha, and Ruben, how they connect to this, how there is a certain connection between them, and of course they find her fascinating, but then again it's much more. In a way, these children are a gift for her as well.
Yes,
it gives her sort of a new purpose, new way,
and a closure. Because it was an unfinished adventure, and she was very sad and a little bit bitter about the ending of the Ministry of Solutions. She was very disappointed in her colleagues. Mm-hmm. And she was the young one back then. She was only like 20 years old, and it were the others that spoiled it. Mm-hmm. And this way, there is still a bit of adventure left for her in a time that she did not expect it to be, and I like that. And I like that you can give someone that as a writer.
Was there a Madame Vis in your life?
No, but I would have liked it to be. I think I'm always looking. I still am always looking for like older inspirational figures. I'm always interested if someone is, in their 70s and they give an interview, or in their 80s or 90s. I always read it. I'm always looking for the snippets of wisdom that they have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they have a way of saying things that, they do not overcomplicate. They just simply say what is the truth, or what is their opinion, and it's very honest, and it's usually it is very moving, because you see that they speak from experience. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the connection between young children and very old people. I think we complicate stuff in our minds. We learn to qualify things, to put them in certain corners. Like, okay, that kind of person, you can see him, he's probably like this, and his problem is probably because he did this and this and this. Like, there's all these conclusions and prejudice, which children very often don't have yet. And I think, and I hope, it's not for everyone, but that if you get older and older and older, you might become beyond this. You do see the person again, and you don't see these little walls that we've built in society anymore. So I think that's why in my mind, those two generations, they fit together.
Sanne, how did you become a writer?
Well, one day I woke up and it was a process. It was a very long process. I wanted to become a writer since I was like 9 or 8. I always enjoyed coming up with stories. I still remember like the feeling of an empty piece of paper and a pen, and the fact that I could just come up with everything. I loved it. But I grew up and I lost it. And I think I hear that very often from grown-ups. And then I was in my late 20s and I started to dabble. I started to write this story about children helping someone else. And but it took me a very long time to actually finish it because I wasn't convinced that I was a writer. I'd become a journalist so that I was writing a lot. And I think this was important because it made me a better writer. Because, even if I was writing a little bit about a football competition, you're still thinking, like, how can I get the attention of the reader? What words do I use? So I was becoming better and better. And then slowly I started finishing this story. But it was a slow process. And I think it was also rooted in this feeling of, I should be writing. I should be writing. Why am I not writing? I think for years there was this nagging voice. I have everything. Why am I not happy? I'm not writing. And then there were these two things I always wanted. I wanted to become a writer. I wanted to become a mother. And then I had my first baby. And I thought, well, I've done this. Now I will do the other thing as well. So at the most inconvenient time in life with a newborn baby, I started to write every night, like 200 words, 300 words, little bits. And that took me about a year. And then I finished the book, finally. And it actually wasn't the Ministry of Solutions. It was another book that has not been translated into any language. But it was a fairy tale about a grumpy princess in a country where everyone is always happy. She's the only one who thinks things are stupid. And because it was a fairy tale, my imagination that I kind of lost, it started working again. Because if you write a fairy tale, you give yourself permission to come up with anything. And then in the slipstream of this story, I finally finished this book that I had been working on for 8 years, on and off. So then 8 years ago, in 2016, I had 2 books published.
How did the story come to you? Story of Nina and Alpha. You already told me a little bit about the inspiration of those characters and connection to you personally. But how did you develop the story?
Well, that also took a long time. I think it went from different, like the first time that I wrote this story, it was 4 children. I completely killed one off. You probably know what it's like as a director, that you can it's very weird.
You have to make choices.
He was called Mark.
Oh,
yes.
Poor boy.
Poor boy. I don't know where he is now. So there were 4 children and they helped a man. They had this letter from a man and he wrote a letter to God. And it was about his wife that had run off with the neighbor. And they were trying to get the wife back for him. And then that was the first draft and it just wasn't very good. And I realized it wasn't very good because they were helping a grown-up. And I wanted them to help a child. Because this was it was weird. It didn't work. And then the whole writing a letter to God thing was kind of tricky as well. Because it very easily became kind of insulting to religious people. So I changed that as well. So that was the first draft. And then in the drafts that followed, it became children helping a child, helping Ruben. And it became a ministry of solutions. So that's how it developed.
Did you have help? Did you have people who read your drafts and gave you some feedback, or was it like a process inside of you?
It was for a very long time. It was a process inside of me, and then as I decided, like I really want to become a writer now. I'm done with just doing this as a hobby. I started doing this course. That I was a bit too stubborn to actually learn from the course. But I did meet some people that were in the same position as me, that wanted to be writers. And one of them, Tineke, she was a very strong writer, and she read everything that I wrote. And that was the first time that I had like professional feedback on the whole story.
What was it like?
Well, no, that was actually nice.
Were you a nervous wreck?
I was a nervous wreck. Yes. It was very scary. And you don't know how you're going to react, because part of you, if someone criticizes your work, part of you wants to go, well, you're stupid. I never want to see you again.
Yes.
And you just don't understand.
But then again,
you have to breathe in and breathe out. And there's very often a lot to learn. Mm-hmm. But she is still my friend, and she still reads my work. So
good. That's good to know. You stayed friends. It was a story a long time in development.
Yeah.
For 8 years.
Yes.
How many drafts did you have? Can you remember?
Yes. Well, there was this first draft with the older man, and then there was a whole different draft, and then I thought I'd finished, and then I did this course, and the teacher in the course said, sometimes you look at your manuscript and you just know, I have to start all over again. And something dropped inside of me, and I thought, oh, this is me. I have to start all over again. And that was the final draft. When I then rewrote it again, and then it was done.
I'm very grateful that you did that. So far, only 2 of the books have been... first of all, I'm going to ask. So you created the story of the Ministry of Solutions. And it's a complete story. I mean, the first book. Yeah. You know, it starts with the letter, and it ends with the Ministry of Solutions being reestablished.
Yes.
Then you decided to do a sequel.
Yes.
How was that? Why did you decide to do that?
Because it came to me. Mm-hmm. Because I'd put all this work and all this time into these characters and into creating the ministry, and then it was done and the ministry was there. And I thought, yes, but now I've created something. I kind of want to play with it. Mm-hmm. I want to come up with more stories. And then I thought, but maybe there's a case from the first Ministry of Solutions, and it's still open. I like this idea that every problem solves itself, but sometimes a problem doesn't solve itself. Mm-hmm. And even after 80 years, it's still a problem. And then I kind of thought, yeah, well, I'm going to continue now. But it's funny because in the Netherlands, the second book has a 2 on the cover, mm-hmm. and the third book has a 3, but the first book doesn't have that because it wasn't a first. Yeah. It was a book. Mm-hmm. And then it became the first book.
So far, 2 of the books have been translated into Estonian, but in the Netherlands, there is already 5. And earlier you told me that you have a 6th one coming. Is it going to be... I just want to maybe ask you a few hints of what's ahead, what's going to happen in the 3rd or 4th. You don't have to describe everything, but just maybe the basics, some.
The third one is coming to Estonia.
Is it, yeah?
Yes.
So that's cool. That's cool.
In the third book, the 3rd and 4th are both, again, like bigger cases, like in the second book. The third book is about a hoarder, someone who just collects stuff, and then he can't throw it out, and it becomes a real danger, and he actually hurts himself, and he gets evicted, and we can't help him. The children cannot help him. This is a psychological issue. But his son is a young teacher, and he has to clear out this whole house, and the children help him. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th book is about a boy that is stuck in the divorce of his parents, and it's a nasty divorce, and he doesn't speak to his friends about it, but he is very aggressive, and he gets very low marks at school, and then so his life is going down in a very fast. And Alpha wants to help him, and Nina thinks, well, why do we have to help him? He's so aggressive. He's such a bully. Mm-hmm. And also, he is the son of the Silverman, Jack.
Okay.
So it's called The Silver Boy. And then in the fifth book, we let him go, and it's in Switzerland, and it is the International Conference of Solutions, because that's once every 3 years. And there is in ministry solutions from the whole world coming together. The children are the only children, because the others are all grown-ups. But there's one other girl, and she's from Belgium, because that's convenient, because then they can speak the same language. And she has a father who works for the Swiss ministry. And they have this case about a haunted house that is there in the hills of Geneva, and no one dares to go in. But of course, my ministry does not believe in ghosts, so there has to be a scientific solution, and they're going to find out. And then you want to know about the sixth book.
I want to know about the sixth one, just a little bit, just a hint.
It's about a diary of Benjamin Silver, and Benjamin Silver was the first silverman, and he worked for the Ministry of Solutions in London in 1870.
Yeah.
And he was very good at it, and he loved his work. And then he becomes very bitter after things go wrong for him and no one helps him. And then he gets very rich because he strikes oil in America. And his journey, his boat trip from London to New York, the train from New York to California in 1878, all these things he wrote down in his diary. So this is part of the book. It's like a fifth of the book is these diary entrances. And the rest is a story in our time of the children who find out that there is something very wrong with the Silverman and this diary. There's something going on, and they have to find out what.
You hinted that there is going to be like a closure.
A little bit. Well, if this is the end, then I leave them in good hands.
Okay.
I take out a lot of that what has been troubling them.
Okay. I can't wait for the third one to be published in Estonia, and I hope the other ones will be translated as well, because I don't know. I haven't checked the statistics, but I have a feeling that these books will be very popular in Estonia, because the first two ones already. I know a lot of people who have read them, and yeah. So
that's really it's such a nice honor, because it's, you don't control the text. Like I say, I can't read it in Estonian, but then I come here and there's children reading my story, this story that I wrote 8 years long, that I've worked on for so long. And then there's children in another part of Europe that are reading it. It's still quite a magical thing.
Yes, and this is something that I can relate to in a way, because if somebody watches the performance, it in a way it lives in them.
Yeah,
they will have discussions on the topic. They will, talk about it with their friends, who will in turn talk about it with their friends. So, yeah. I wanted to ask you about an inspiration in a way, and in some way you already answered it, but the characters in your book. I understand Nina and Alpha and the connection to you. What about the other characters? Are they people from the streets? Are they somebody you know, or is it an imagination?
I have to use my imagination, because I found quite early on in the process that if I take people from real life, it kind of blocks the story, and you don't know when it's going to happen. But then my mind will go, no, but she would never say that. No, she would never do that. So the story kind of takes a turn based on reality, and I think this completely depends on your process, but for me this is how it works. So for me it's easier to really just create people that are non-existent. I even chose names of people. I didn't know any Nina, and I came up with the name Alpha. I didn't know anyone called Ruben, because this helps me.
Gives you freedom.
It gives me more freedom.
Yeah, I understand that.
Now the bully the bully in the book, I did kind of go to school with her, but not literally. But that kind of girl that's very popular, that's pretty, kind of knows her way around, kind of manipulates the grown-ups into thinking that she's actually really lovely. And then she's really nasty. Yes.
And at the same time, you give a hint that she might be broken inside.
Yes.
There is something very, sad about her.
There is something sad about her, and also it's very scary the way she is manipulated by the Silverman. Like a man comes along and says, "Here, I give you some money. I give you new shoes. Will you do this for me?" Of course, this is a scary. Like you don't want to know what she's going to be like when she's 18. But I got her safe out of the book. You know, her story doesn't go downhill. She's just disappeared.
I'm going to give you a little hint about the show as well, because we were looking for a closure for our own, since we don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the books and stuff. And for me, it felt like a complete circle. And they even discuss it in the book, but earlier on. If their next case, after solving those three, after becoming the official Ministry of Solutions, they take on Sophia as a case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's something that we decided it would close the circle,
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
But you're nicer to her than I was, because I just took her out of the story. She's gone in the second book. She's just gone.
Yeah, because this story goes on and on and on. We don't know what's going to happen with our show.
No, but you're leaving her in a good place, in a better place. That's nice. That's nice.
Yes, I wanted to, because it felt to me that although she is a manipulator and she does a lot of bad things and she is a bully, she also is being manipulated, and she deserves some sort of a, for the viewers.
Yeah.
And for the Ministry of Solutions, it gives a certain perspective.
Yeah.
That's why we decided to.
Okay, I like this.
So, besides Ministry of Solutions, you said you have written some other books.
Yeah.
What are the topics that you feel like are your topics, or what would you like to discover further, develop further, explore further?
Well, I've written, apart from this fairy tale, I wrote 3 books, fairy tale books, on this grumpy princess. And that was mainly just a lot of fun. It's for a slightly younger age group. It's still like a girl that embraces the adventure and goes into the world, but still finds it kind of scary. So I think that's everywhere. But my other main book, it's called Mot and the Metaalvissers. Metaalvissers it's like, I don't know if you have this here, but you can buy like a magnet, and if you go into the water, the magnet will take out, I don't know, old keys and bicycles. And sometimes it's scary. There are places in the Netherlands where it's forbidden. But, and again, it's one of these things that is scary for children. But this is, it's my biggest book. And it won some prizes in the Netherlands, which the ministry never did. So that was kind of nice to to go through. But it's about another girl, 11-year-old, and she clashes with her mother. Her mother is very pretty and fashionable, and she's very practical, and she doesn't wear makeup, and she doesn't want to wear high heels. And she, to kind of piss off her mum, she buys this magnet, and then she finds a little submarine. And she can keep the submarine, and someone tells her how to sail in it. And then at the edge of town, there's this very big area where these artists live and acrobats, and they all live in submarines, and they have campfires, and she likes it there so much more than her own mum, her uptight mum. But this place is being threatened by this developer who wants to buy it, and then he's very rich and he wants to play golf there, because this is what very rich people do. They create golf putts. And so and it's not in our world. It was the first book, apart from the fairy tale, that is a kind of just off. Like there's no internet, there's no mobile phones. It's all a bit more industrial, steampunky drawings. And that was very nice. And I actually wrote this book in between Ministry of Solutions, because I felt it's very nice to write about the same children, about the same ministry, but it also stops your imagination, because you can't all of a sudden come up with 20 other characters, because the book would become too crowded. So I wanted to, it's between the third and the fourth book, I just created this whole new world. And right, your question was if there was the same theme. Well, again, she kind of helps people because
Helping people.
she takes her submarine, and there is something about that submarine that helps them with this puzzle. So this is it keeps coming up. Another thing that keeps coming up is real life. Like I thought maybe I can make this into this very steampunk, almost fairy tale world where, fantasy, real fantasy, you know. And I keep coming back to reality. So I guess that's what I like. And again, it's an 11-year-old girl, and she does things, and she gets more self-confident, and
so coming of age novels in a way.
Yes, yes. And I think there's always this theme. It's always adventure. I like adventure books, and it always is about something more than that. You know, my adventures are never about, I want to find the treasure, and I'm going to find the treasure, and I've got it. Oh, there's a shark, there's a pirate. If there is a pirate, then they want to help the pirate, or become friends with the pirate, or they have a crush on the pirate. I don't know, but it has to be more than just the adventure. And it's never just psychology, because then I need things to happen. So I think that's my genre.
Borderline fantasy, but set in the real surroundings.
Yes.
On that topic, if the surroundings and the historical events are real, you do have to do a lot of research.
Yes.
What is that process like?
I really enjoy it. And I think that's still like the journalist in me. That finds it kind of easy as well to just ring people and ask them for information. For the first book, I didn't do that. But the second book, which is also in Estonian, is about a picture made by Vincent van Gogh.
Yes.
And I completely made that story up. But he did live around Rotterdam in the time that I describe. And I talked to people from the Van Gogh Museum. And I asked them, like, I want this forgotten drawing from Van Gogh when he was 23. And they completely went along with this story. So they told me, okay, well then the picture has to be, and they showed me how big the drawing books were in 1880. So they had to be kind of big. And he only drew in black because he was too poor to buy any colors. And he always drew little trees. So you may have to make sure that there are little trees. And then I took all this information and I brought it to the illustrator, and he drew a make-believe picture. And it's really nice to do stuff like that. It's really nice. And I'm still amazed that experts understand that I'm asking for an imaginary reality. Sometimes you meet people who kind of go, yeah, but it wouldn't be like that. Yeah, but that never happened. And okay, fine, they're too grown up. But there's always someone who does understand and who kind of goes along with it. Like, okay. So yeah, I enjoy the research.
Yeah, I was going to, come closer to the topic of theatre, and your experience with it. But I might begin with the fact that once we start rehearsing, it is also playing the detectives. In a way, we are the detectives as well. We ask a lot of questions about the book, the material that we're working with, and we try to understand the real motivations behind the characters. What drives them? What do they want to achieve? What is the main? What are the main topics? What is the main line in the story? And I feel like in a way these processes are similar.
So do you do this, or do you do this with the actors?
I do it myself at first.
Yeah.
Then while we're writing the story, rewriting the story, adapting it with the dramaturg, then we do it together. And then like a third layer is with the actors. And over the course of maybe 2.5 months, it is constant questions. Why would we do that? What does she want? What does he want? Where is what is the most important thing? And I feel like maybe these processes are similar, but as a writer, you have and I'm not a writer. And that's why I have this feeling. As a writer, in a way, you have more freedom.
Yeah,
because
loads
you
more
can
freedom.
create, and you don't have to have all those answers.
Yeah.
But in order to create a full story
Yeah.
for theatre, you have to have those answers. You can't have many loose ends.
No, and you have to be more practical.
And
I
we
mean,
have
I
to
can let
yeah.
people fly if I would like to, but you
Yes.
would have to have the ropes to make them fly. So
Yes,
it's
exactly.
easier as a writer, I
In
think.
a way it is, but then again, total freedom comes with a lot of responsibility. And I believe that as a writer, you cope with that responsibility very well. But I feel like it is a big challenge. You are responsible, for what you're creating as a writer as well. Mm-hmm. Of course, we are here as well. So we have been trying to adapt, transforming one art piece into another one, and while preserving the essence of and the atmosphere and the essence of the story that you have created, trying to stay as true as possible to it. But we have been trying to translate it into an action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not like an action movie, but acting on the stage. Yeah. Just to be clear, because there is. I find it interesting. There is this word in Estonian, and into English it translates as action, but action in English has a lot of different meanings as well. So that's why I wanted to clarify that. So yeah. What has been your experience with theatre? Are you a theatre goer? What is theatre in Netherlands like? What is your experience?
There's lovely theatre in the Netherlands. I used to go a lot as a student, and then I became a mum, and I was just tired in the evening, and I watched loads of Netflix, and I read books, of course. And no, but there has been some laziness in me to explore what has been going on in the past 10 years. But now my daughter is 11, and she's a little actor. So she has been doing this children acting course, and all of a sudden I'm in this world, and I have to take her there, and I'm behind the scenes, and they have their big premiere night. And because it's really nice in Rotterdam, there is this children's theater, but it's really quite professional. People pay to go, but the whole cast is made out of children. Mm-hmm. So this is really nice. And now she's going to go to secondary school, and it is a school in which she has 10 hours of drama a week.
Wow.
Of theater, and it's extra, so it's going to be very busy. So yes, my main link with theater at the moment is that I'm the mum of someone who loves it.
So when you heard that in another country, in Estonia, one theater wants to take your story and develop it into a performance, what were your initial feelings like?
Well, I loved it instantly, but then it's also abstract. You kind of go, okay, whatever, because it feels very far away. Not literally Estonia is very far away, but the fact that someone is adapting it and you're not there and you don't know what they're going to, you kind of go like, okay, I'll let this go. And let's hope that they make something nice out of it. And I'm always quite happy that I'm able to do that. Like in theory, I think there's a version of me that would be very scared of, I hope they do it the right way, and I want to look at who they cast, but there isn't. I'm just very curious with what people do with it. So I think it's mainly curiosity and a certain sense of detachment, like I say, because it's a very long process, and just hearing that someone in Estonia is going to make a play out of your book, it's very hard to actually think, that's going to be like this and this and this. You just don't know. I still don't know for another 2 hours.
Yes. But you will be knowing in a little bit.
Yeah.
So about a year ago, I read your book, and by that time I already had taken up this challenge to find the material for a new production that was going to be our summer's production, and also that we want to play indoors and out. We're going to travel a lot during the summer, and I was trying to find a material that would speak to me and touch me and move me, but at the same time I wanted it to be quite universal, so that it has a power to touch many people. A great story, but then again it had to be universal in the sense that it had needed to be adaptable, to all those circumstances. So when I discovered your book, and I discovered it through a very close person who gave this book to me, it was an eye-opening moment, because the essence of the story is not how you say it. The essence of the story is in the connection between the characters. The main thing, of course, the setting, the background, the city life, as I call it, city jungle, and the summer and everything it gives. But the main thing wasn't about that. So it was an eye-opening moment for me, and I realized that this is the story that I want to do, because the main topic, the main theme, helping others today, feels very actual, feels extremely real, with all the turbulence in the world, and that's why I decided to take this material and turn it into a theatre performance. And I really want to thank you for the trust, and not saying no to us, but saying yes. So we've been trying to find our way. Of course, we have been adapting. Of course, there are things that we had to let go of with a bleeding heart. But there is an expression, kill your darlings. Yep. And I needed to kill a lot of my darlings.
My darlings.
And your darlings as well. I'm so sorry about that. But while doing that, I really, really tried. All of us, we really tried to capture the essence.
Yeah.
And I hope that you will be pleased. I hope that you, after the performance, will smile at me and you say that you liked it. But we'll see.
Actually, you sent me an email with some changes and adaptations you had to take, and that was, I think, the first time that it became. That I could see, that I could really truly understand what it meant that someone else was working with my story. Before that, it had been more of an abstract. But I read this and I thought, my God, this is really, you have been thinking about this story that I came up with, and you have been adapting it, and you have been adapting it to Estonian society, to the stage. And so that was actually the moment that it became alive in my mind, and it was also the day that I decided to book the ticket and come to Tallinn.
Yes. How difficult is for you to choose when creating a story? And as you said, you with this one you had many drafts. Yeah. How difficult was it to kill the boy?
To kill Mark?
Yes.
I still think about him now and then. No, it's incredibly easy, and it makes you feel like a psychopath, because you're literally deleting someone. You're like, there's 4 people sitting in a room having a conversation, and you take out one. It's a godlike quality, and you're using it the wrong way, So, but then I kind of make that up by always ending the stories well, trying to leave them in a good place at the moment, at the ending. So no, I think it is okay to cut out things, because you're constantly doing that. The whole process of writing a story is, sometimes it's dazzling that you're writing something and you can go so many ways, and the story could go so many ways, and you're the one deciding which way the story goes. And if it goes easy, then you don't think about it. But sometimes you see the crossroads. You kind of see it could go this way, it could go that way. It could become a new genre. I could make it a horror story now. I could make it, and that's still it's a very weird responsibility towards the story.
So do you reach the point where you just have to, close the computer, take a few days and to contemplate? Or?
I think so, yes. But what works best is, which is very annoying, to just write it out. Because while you're writing it out, you kind of go, no, this is a dead end. I'm not enthusiastic about this. But then when you start doing that, you're going to do work for nothing. So that's still one of the frustrations.
But that's another connection and similarity between our working processes, because we have to try out things as well. And for the actors, sometimes it's also very sad, because we're trying out different versions, and then later on I will say, sorry, we will not keep that or that or that or that. And even until the last moment we were cutting things, out, but it makes the complete performance stronger. And that is the only justification for, some background stories to get cut out from it. So the Ministry of Solutions is a reflection, in a way, of processes that are happening in the world right now. And I find it extremely inspirational that you took children as main characters, and they are the ones who are offering solutions. They are the ones who have enough courage to see and look with open eyes, to strive for the truth and justice. It is really about the next generation, in a way, and the connection between the generations. Mm-hmm. So what is it that gives them this different perspective? Sometimes it feels like we are puzzling things too much, as you said, with our power games, with our politics and stuff. Yeah. And they have this innocence, they have this purity. Yeah. But for you, what is the essence? Why? What do you think? How? I don't even know what the question is. It's just a reflection.
No, I can understand the question. I think I answered part of it before.
Yeah,
I still find that very hard to find the right words for it. But it's like we put layers on ourselves. Like when my daughters, they see a homeless person in the street, they see someone who needs help. Mm-hmm. That's what they see. Full stop. That's what they see. Mm-hmm. I see politics. I see personal choices. I see addiction. It annoys me because it makes me think of people in my own life that made the wrong choices, that are pressing down on me at some point in life. It annoys me because the city council should help this person, and why aren't they? And that becomes a whole political thing in my mind. There's so much happening that I do not just see someone asking for €1. Yeah. And that's all that my daughters see. And I think that's kind of the essence. It's also naivety, but it's also very much more the essence of helping each other. It's just seeing that someone needs something, or why is it so hard to give it to that person? Mm-hmm. And if you make that bigger than into a whole ministry, then you get, which is operated by grown-ups in other countries. Like, I'm not completely disregarding the grown-ups. They do this. But the reason that it's that I think the Ministry of Solutions in my book should always be a secret is because of politics and the way that grown-ups handle things. If it would not be a secret, it would take 3 pages of the book for it to become a PR thing. We've been helping these people, vote for us. And they've been given help by us, so we're the better person. Or I do have less trust in us as grown-ups. And I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's a growing up thing. And if it's a growing up thing, then it's, of course, a bit cynical. But I don't think it's something we lose completely. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we do just see a person that needs help. Even if we have all these politics going through our minds, we are still capable of thinking, well, you are hungry now, you're asking for €1, I've got one, there you go. Mm-hmm. Full stop.
So in a way, we do need to put on those pink glasses and see the world through them, not too much.
Yeah, sometimes.
But, just let go of the prejudice, that skepticism.
Yes, and thinking that we know it better. I think this is also something that happens while you grow up. You kind of think that you know it better. And sometimes you do, you do get wiser, but you also get more cynical. So
another thing, before I will take some questions from the audience, one other thing that is very important in your books, in the first one, is the topic of being bullied. Mm-hmm. And bullying, that is what the story begins with the letter from Ruben, who is asking for help. And in Estonia, it still is. I'm sure it has always been a problem, an issue. And although there are these organizations and programs, and it is a topic that has been discussed quite a lot, and help is available, it still is a topic. And I still hear stories from people who say that I was bullied, or some of the people have said that I was the bully. I was the one who was bullying. What is it? Where does it come from? The need for some people to be the bullies? Yeah, I don't know. And I also think that after we just said how nice children are, this of course is a very hard aspect of being a child. There's this constant social
battle going on of finding your own position and then making victims while finding that position. And I think children are so harsh in what they say to each other. Saying how you look weird, or your mom's weird, or how do you smell? All these things that they tell each other. That if grown-ups would do this for one day, we would all be at home crying. Yeah. If we would, act towards each other as 11-year-olds or 10-year-olds do. And I don't know where that comes from. And I do believe it's international, universal, of all times. But very often you do kind of sometimes see the hand of the people who raise them. Sometimes you hear very young children saying things, you kind of go like, this cannot be from your own mind. This has to come from your home.
It is. They are, of course, they are a reflection of their homes.
So we're perpetuating things without us knowing it. We're constantly perpetuating this whole idea of social hierarchy and people being better than you and you being better than people. And this will somehow, and the difference between boys and girls, I think this is still a core in bullying as well. You're a girl, you should behave like a girl. You shouldn't, these kind of things. I don't know, but it's a deep fear of people being different. And I don't know if it's the same here. I'm sure it actually is. But a lot of my writer friends were the ones that were not popular when they were young. It's the quirky, weirder, clever people that are not the ones that are popular when they're 10. Yeah. And they're the ones that make stories when they're 30. Yeah. Or direct plays or something.
So all the more reason for us to keep our eyes open and help people in need.
Yeah, and to tell, I think it's very important to tell children that this will be better, because everyone is always in their own little bubble. And when you're at 15 or something, I'm sure you think that that's life. But it gets so much better, especially for the weird ones.
And help is there. And that's the most important thing, is not to leave yourself alone.
Yeah, and to start believing that you are worthy of being bullied or
also
something.
When you notice someone, with a problem, please help. Okay. So the very last thing that I just wanted to mention, for me, those books, well, the first two of your books about Ministry of Solutions, they're filled with nostalgia. In a way, it feels like a summer adventure, and it brings me back straight to childhood, And when I was thinking about it, what is it that creates this feeling for me? And it's a sense of security in a way. Even when there is no hope and things get very dark, there is always a way out. And as a reader, I believe that these characters will find a solution. So they, even in the very tough moments, hard moments, they do not lose the hope completely. And that is something that I feel is very, very beautiful. And I wish that we would not lose our hope as well, So thank you for your stories. They do make the world better, I feel. So maybe a few questions from the audience before we complete. Tahaksite midagi küsida?
I have one question.
Yeah?
I will give you, Helena will give you a microphone.
Hello. Just one thing that interests me always is that how do you write? What do you need for writing? Do you write with computer? Do you have a pen or a notebook? Do you need silence for that to go outside, or you do it at home?
I need my laptop. And I think I kind of need the place where I'm always, I'm quite conservative this way. It has to be the same place because it gives me peace. If I've written there for a couple of years, then it's a nice place to come back. So this is my own desk, and I like it there. And I do need peace. I can't write with music on or something. I have colleagues who can, but I can't. But then I'm extremely bad at concentrating, like really, really bad. So I write for about 5 minutes, then I think, job well done. And I look outside and I check my email and I check the news, and then I go for another 10 minutes. So I think I would be a much Well, I would write a lot more if I could tackle this problem. But and I do always have a pen and a notebook with me, just in case I come up with the story, because I have learned that, like dreams, you convince yourself that you will remember this brilliant story idea that you have, but then you never remember it. So I've trained myself to write it down. I can do that in my phone, but I like it better on paper. But I don't write the whole thing out on paper.
But how much do you think about your reader? Because in the theater, sometimes it happens that we have all the, like, we imagine the audience who we are doing the play, and then when you go to see your own shows or plays, that you will be very surprised about the audience who's coming there. Yeah. And sometimes you think that, oh, okay, these guys who I made the play for are not going to see it at all. Yeah. Or the children, or I don't know, they don't have so much money to come to the theater, or this social group of the audience doesn't come to the theater. Yeah. How much do you think about them? Who do you route?
Yeah, that's interesting, because that's really a link. You constantly have to think about the people in the audience, and on the other hand, you have to do your own thing. And I think I tend not to think about the audience, especially in the beginning. When I wrote this book, there was no audience. This was my first book, so I was only writing for the story and for myself. And this is very interesting, because that has changed in the past couple of years. I now have, I go to schools a lot, or I'm in libraries, and then there are children standing at my desk, little girls and boys, and they're 11, and they have my 5 books in their hands, and they say, I read all of your work. And now that I'm writing, I see them. For the first time, I see the actual readers. They're this abstract group of people, like not literally with faces, but they're this group of nice children that come up to my table. And I do find it harder when I think of them, because I'm more aware that I could disappoint them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, still. And I found out, for example, that these children, they enjoy things like the James Bond kind of adventure things. So the chasing through the city, and for me, I'm not very good at those kind of things. But now I realize if they like it, I shouldn't back down on this, because children really like it when they have to run away for someone, and then but that's the only thing that I adapt thinking about them. But it's a good question.
Any more questions?
I have one question, but maybe it's answered before. Did you have prototypes for the characters?
Yeah, I kind of answered it, but not completely. I know they just kind of came in my mind, and like I said before, Alpha and Nina are kind of like bits of me.
Is Nina a bit like you?
Yeah, but she's much more. She dares more. She's more fierce. But this kind of, I would like to go on an adventure, and I'm going to do this. And yes, I do. I have always been like that. And also the practicalness, like she's wearing boots, and I've always been that kind of boot. Or now I just wear sneakers. But it's the same idea, like why would anyone ever wear heels? You cannot run. You cannot go through puddles. You need to have these kind of adventure boots. So it's little things like that remind me of her, or her of me.
Thank you.
So, Sanne, I wanted to thank you for answering all the questions and talking to me. It has been a pleasure, and I hope you like the performance, and we'll see. Yeah. Suur tänu, et kuulasid Eesti Noorsooteatri taskuhäälingut. Sellel korral oli meil külas lastekirjanik Sanne Rooseboom, ja uute kohtumisteni.
Thank you.